workers. How is that not taking their workers down? How is that not lowering the standard of living for their workers? Why is that okay? But it's not okay to ask for what they deserve. It isn't okay for these workers to actually get paid what they deserve based on how much money these companies are making. So let's get to some of that right here. So More Perfect Union, who, by the way, also shared these clips. Right here, what Cramer didn't say, the big three car makers have made $250 billion in North American profits the past 10 years, while the majority of auto workers are now lower tier with no retirement healthcare and lower wages. CEO pay is up 40% in the last 4 years. Auto worker wages are up 6%. Why is that okay? How is that not, if you don't play ball, we'll take you down? These CEOs taking down their employees, making this much more money. Meanwhile, the workers are the reason they're able to make that kind of money. So specifics here that were brought up as well by the union president in his video that I'll get to. But GM earnings have soared. Detroit News here. Stellantis post record $12.1 billion net profit in first half of 2023. And Ford's second quarter profit surges on strong revenue, earnings per share, top estimates. So they're making billions of dollars in profit. And Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Random ad. And it's not being shared by the workers. So let me get to the first clip here this is the very frightening, very scary Shawn Fain, the United Auto Workers president, on a recent call. This is from yesterday, 2 days ago, and he's discussing some of this.
Instead of rewarding the workers who spent long hours wrecking their bodies on the line to make these profits possible, the big three have funneled billions into stock buyback schemes that artificially inflate the value of company shares and further enrich company executives and the top 1%. That's billions of dollars that have been robbed from the workers who made these profits possible. General Motors CEO Mary Barra made $29 million last year, yet a newly hired battery worker at Altium Cells in Lordstown, Ohio, is making $16.50 an hour. That means a newly hired Altium worker would have to work full-time for 16 years to earn what Mary Barra makes in a single week. Let me repeat that again. A new worker at Altium Battery has to work 16 years to make 1 week of a CEO's salary.
16 years of work to equal 1 week of CEO pay. In what world does that make any sense? Yet somehow, Shawn Fain fighting for his workers, that's frightening. Showcasing the obvious disparity here. This is scary stuff. Like, what is frightening about this? I mean, frightening maybe to Jim Cramer and, massive corporations who can't stand workers fighting for their rights. But to the average person, Shawn Fain is just being rational. He's just fighting for his workers. He's doing what he should be doing. And the workers there should be proud of him for fighting for that. And I'm going to get to later on, by the way, more specifics around what they're fighting for and how not frightening it is. Just, again, they're asking for what they deserve. But let's get to another clip here from Jim Cramer, who has more to say. But again, this is more rhetoric about how frightening Shawn Fain is, and then I'll get to more from Shawn Fain as well.
And then the notion that we're fat cats. The shareholders are fat cats and have been overly rewarded. We haven't seen this. That's class warfare. And it's very shocking to hear class warfare.
I remember Jim Cramer a while ago who lamented the shift from capital to labor. I'm sorry, from labor to capital over the last 30 years.
Well, I always felt that the middle class benefited from unions. I've been a union member, twice union member, and I always felt that you could work together and everybody would do well. I never felt that we had to destroy the people that we were fighting.
Who's destroying what? I love this part because I'm not sure Cramer really expected the other host there to bring up that Jim Cramer, I guess in the past, has talked about the importance of unions. I'm not sure in what context that was around because he's always been a very pro-business individual. But he goes on to say how he was in two different unions. So I guess essentially he's a class traitor is what it sounds like. And now that you have a union here, a union president actually fighting for the workers. And also, there are other parts of this, of Sean Fain's discussion with his membership here, where he's discussing how this is not a top-down approach, that they are specifically only agreeing to whatever their members agree to. So this isn't, the president rules above all, which I think maybe is what Jim Cramer is annoyed by, that this union president, Sean Fain, is actually representing the interests of all of his workers. Let me get to another clip here from Sean Fain discussing what they're asking for.
While Big Three executives have used those extreme profits to pump up their pay, our members have fallen further and further behind. This chart compares what our contracts provided in 2007 compared to what they provide today. As you can see here, an auto worker starting at a Big Three company in 2007 had a higher starting wage than an auto worker starting in 2023. And that's without taking inflation into account. If the 2007 starting rate had kept up with inflation, newly hired Big Three employees would be making $28.68 in today's wages. That's more than $10 an hour higher than the current rate. That's almost $21,000 more per year. That's a life-changing amount of money that our members have been robbed of.
So in a second here, I'll get to specifics around what they're asking for, and I'll get to another Jim Cramer clip where this is, I guess, where he goes the most extreme. So that in a minute here. But Sean Fain showing the clear disparity between where they are right now and where they would have been if wages have kept up with inflation, and they haven't. So again, what they're asking for now is just what they're owed, what they deserve. But let's get to quick specifics on that before I get to that clip. The next clip. Members' demand. So this is just one slide. There, if you go through it's like an hour video. He breaks it all down. But the right to strike over plant closures, working family protection program, and abuse of temporary workers, which is an important point here. He really is standing up for all their workers. So temp workers included. More paid time off to be with families. And he makes a really great point in the last clip that I'll get to in a bit. And then significantly increase retiree pay. So, and of course, in addition to, higher wages, this is basic stuff that is apparently incredibly frightening to Jim Cramer. Let me get to now the last clip from Cramer, where again, this is where he goes the hardest against how frightening Sean Fain is.
This man studied Trotsky. I got to tell you, studied Trotsky before pre-ice picking era.
You think some of the weakness this morning is about reading UAW
honestly, I'm reading the guy.
Over Fitch?
Walter Reuther now. Walter Reuther seems like he's a man of peace. It is. I have to tell you that if Sean Fain, who is the UAW head, if he gets his way, you can short every single auto company until the cows come home. I took 7 courses on communism at Harvard because I was in a particularly bad period at Harvard. There should be an 8th course, Sean Fain, and what he had to do with Engels. It was Marx and Engels and Fain.
Okay, this is where we get to how this clearly is a performance. Marx, Engels, Fain. Come on, buddy. What are you doing here? Going this extreme makes me think, who's paying him under the table? I'm sure he has his own investments in these automakers, and he has these personal relationships with these executives, but it seems like there's a little more going on here when you're specifically targeting Sean Fain and this union that is not going above and beyond what any other union really is. Not to talk down Sean Fain here. I think he's doing a great job, but it's not like, he's not calling to physically destroy these these automakers. He's not calling to, trash the place. He's asking for what their workers deserve. And Cramer is going wild over nothing. Last clip here, and this is, I think, a great clip because this gets to the heart of what it is to be a worker and what it is to be really a human, a person. This is, again, from Sean Fain during his live stream a couple days ago.
Years ago, I was part of a small group at my church that read a book called 1 Month to Live by Carrie and Chris Shook. And part of their calling as ministers, the authors ministered to many people in the final days of their lives. And what they found